Okay, teachers, I know. You have very little time to actually work one-on-one with a student to help them figure out like what's going on. Why are they not turning work in? Or why are their grades on tests lower than they would like? But what if there was an exact flow chart that would walk you through how to use very limited time with students to figure out what they need and the strategy that's going to help them bust through? Today, I'm going to share with you the 4 steps to quickly helping a student problem solve and find the next action. Curious? Let's dig in. First of all, I want you to know that I came up with the 4 steps I'm about to share with you in the video today because I'm currently coaching in a school context where I have very limited time with students and I have to figure out quickly what's going on, what are we going to do about it, and make sure the student has takeaways as they leave their time with me. And I've been watching what I'm doing with students and noticing that there actually is a formula for how you can most quickly and effectively work with students when you have limited time with them. Now, I will say that my ideal as somebody who's been an academic coach for over a decade now is to actually have lots of time with students, to see them on a weekly basis, to be able to coach them as we go through the semester. But that's not always the case, especially if you're a classroom teacher who really has taken on the importance of also being an academic coach to your students. And so you really do have limited time. And what can you do with that limited time? That's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. And the first step, let's imagine you're sitting with the student, you found some private time. Maybe you're literally private, like in a classroom together by yourselves, or maybe it's just you've went over to them and they're working quietly while everybody else is working. But the first place you can start is just saying, I really want to hear. It seems like you're super stressed out right now. What exactly is stressful for you? Or don't even use the word exactly, actually, but like, what's stressful? I want to hear. And just let the student talk at you for a little bit. While they're talking at you, listen for, do they seem to be struggling more with time and task management? Or do they seem to be struggling more with studying and learning? You might also listen for, if you are somebody who's been trained in my processes, which gear from the Get in Gear mini lecture that I teach is most out of whack right now? Or which side of the study cycle does the student seem to need more work with as they talk? Now, if you don't know what either of these mean, don't worry about it. You're still going to get 4 steps that you can implement immediately by the end of this video. But if you are somebody who's been learning in my world for a while, just know that you can also be listening for this thing. Okay, that is step 1. Step 2, after you've listened to the student, is to summarize, add an E please, what you heard to them. And you might say, it sounds like you're struggling with blank, blank, and blank. Summarize, right? You don't need to say everything back to them, but you've been listening for these things, and so you might share it with them. Now, if you're a member of my community and you know all the mini lectures, you don't necessarily at this point need to share which side of the study cycle or which gear is most out of whack, but just know that you're holding that information in the back of your mind. So you've said all of this to the student, and then you check in with them. Do I have it right? Did I hear correctly? Did I get everything? Some version of that question. You want to make sure that they feel fully heard before you move on to the next step. So step 3 is to say something and to the effect of, I'd like to address it all. I have some ideas for you. But if we only have time for one of these topics today, which topic would bring the most relief if we tackled it first? This is the question I'm finding myself asking the students I'm working with in these mini laser coaching sessions that I'm doing at this particular school that I have a contract with right now. So really ask them, we're going for relief. We started with stress. We're going for relief. What would give you the most relief right now? And it'll be very interesting to hear what the student has to say. Now, I'm going to share at the very end of this video step number 4. This was step number 3, which is an actual flow chart depending on what the student says. Before I say that, however, I want to implore you to please like and subscribe to this video and this channel. It's so helpful for me, especially right now as I'm working towards a very particular goal with YouTube to get 4,000 watch hours. I think that's my goal. And possibly even right now, a little graph is going to appear to let you know how close I am. And that will let you know how much you can help me get to that goal. Actually very exciting to have a goal to work towards. The second thing I'd like you to know is that I actually have a downloadable that you can grab right now that's going to help you take what I share at the very end of this video, step 4, to the next level. And it's something called the Consent Burger. You can go to gretchenwegner.com/consent. You might even want to just go quick grab it now so that by the time you're done with this video, the resource will have landed in your email box and then you can take that next action right away. Also, if you're curious about asking me questions or following up with anything we've talked about, I am always available monthly free in a Zoom room for you. And you can sign up for that at gretchenwegner.com/live. So now though, let's get to step number 4, because this is, all of these steps are important, but this is where you have to do some extra quick decision making as an educator. All right, so let's say the student, hold on. You have just asked the student which of these would bring you the most relief. And let's say that you had offered time management and making time visible. It sounds like you might need some help seeing where there's extra time in your day. And you also need help figuring out how to study in ways that are more interesting than just a bunch of flashcards. Let's say that's what you said earlier. Which one of these would bring you the most relief if we tackled it first? If the student knows, they say, oh, yeah, let's make my time visible, please. That I just can't even imagine where there's extra time. Then you get to check in from the place of your expertise. Do you agree with them or do you not agree with them? If you agree and you think their analysis is a good one, yep, seems like time management would help them, then you can ask consent to start. Would it be okay if I shared with you da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And if they say yes, then you start with that. And the Consent Burger downloadable that I told you about is where you'll actually get a step-by-step process for how to ask consent in ways that actually help students be more motivated to take action. Okay, so let's say though that the student says, I want to start with time management, but you don't agree. Maybe because you know there's a test coming up next week and you think you guys can problem solve that right now, and that might bring them more relief actually. Or the student doesn't know. When you ask them what would bring more relief, they go,
I don't know, it's all so overwhelming.
Then we still want to ask consent, but you ask consent to start at a different place than they were thinking if you don't agree with them. Oh, I really hear you. Time management and making time visible would really bring some relief to you. I suspect, though, actually, there's this thing I can show you about studying, flashcards, that might actually bring you more relief given there's a test next week. Do you mind if we start there first and maybe next time we chat, we could do the making time visible? Or then maybe at the end, if we still have more time, we can make time visible. So again, you're asking their permission and consent for starting in a different place. And then if they say yes, then you do that. If they say no, then I actually didn't add this to the flow chart, but it would be down here. If they say no, they just don't really want to do any of this. Then I would just end by saying, okay, I really want to respect that for right now. I'm here whenever you need me, and I'm going to check in again with you tomorrow to see if things changed. Please think about whether you would like some support with time management or with studying or whatever the thing is, right? So that way you're letting them know that another time's coming, and that way they can grow their own comfort level with talking to you about this issue the next day. So This whole sequence can be done pretty quickly in 10 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on how much time you're able to glean with a student. I hope you noticed that consent is a very important part of the coach approach. And teachers, we are so used to telling students what they need to do that it can be really hard to wrap our mind around appropriate ways for a teacher to invite a student to notice what they are and aren't willing to do. So again, I really recommend you go grab this downloadable at gretchenwegner.com/consent. And while you're at it, sign up for the next Q&A office hours with me at gretchenwegner.com/live. That way, you get a deadline because you know, oh, I'm going to have to play with some of this stuff. And then I can report into Gretchen how it went and ask my next question. I'm totally here for you. And I selfishly hope I get to meet you coming up at the next office hours. Take good care.